Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of EQ'IN It, just a show where we give you some tips to help you customize your relationships. Hope everybody's had a great week. We also invite everybody to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, the Facebook and the YouTube. We appreciate everybody who has subscribed and has given us love and comments thus far. Once again, wherever we can do better, or some things we can improve on, or even some things you want us to discuss, we just ask that you would leave it in the comment section, or we'll also give you the email too if you want to email some things to talk about as well. And so, once again, we're just trying to provide the best information possible, just from our experiences and some other experiences that we've seen, to help you have better outcomes on your marriage or your relationship. Once again, I'm Q. This is E. Say hello, everybody.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Good evening.
And so, once again, the Facebook and the YouTube, the like, comment, subscribe, and share. Important if you see
Yes.
something that you think will be beneficial to anyone that you know, things that we talk about, feel free to share it because the more eyes, the better. So, with a lot of things going on in relationships with people having negative things to say, we just want to provide some positives to help people do less complaining and more living and more thriving and enjoying their relationships as we go. All right, E. So tonight we are talking about something we said we're gonna go. I was gonna go over last week. 7 things you
Mm-hmm.
should know before you marry somebody. Now,
All right.
this is not everything you should know, but these are things to help you make more informed, detailed decisions about people you with, even before you get married, before you lay down with them, before you have some kind of other life changing event with this person.
True.
Because the more you know, the more you have an understanding and the better you are tackling things that happen in your relationships. I was trying to find the post. It was from last year where it outlined, it was from a law firm, but they outlined like what people were going through and things they wish they knew before they got married. And the top two
Mm-hmm.
things were people wish they knew they wish they had waited longer before they got married.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think now it said back in the 80s, the average age that like men got married was like 25 and women got married at 22. But as of last year, it's like the average age of men getting married is 30 and women 28. So people are already waiting longer to get married. And the second thing was they wish they knew the views and values of their partner.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people rush
Important.
into these decisions. We love each other and, you know, we're so hot for each other, but we don't take the time to discuss the important things the day to day things, the things that affect the outcome of how we operate, how we respect each other, our families, our finances,
Mm-hmm.
and so, or even what you believe in. So we'll discuss those things tonight. And so, anything you want to
Absolutely.
add before we jump into it?
Yeah, this is a good topic. I do believe it's important to discuss. Um, just to see where a person's at. I mean, it's one thing, you like them for their looks and so forth, but what's their character like? What do they value? What are their beliefs? What do they, see taking place moving forward? And I think it's important to have those discussions so that you know what you're getting into, whether it is, starting to just date or spend time with somebody that you're considering maybe marrying. You need to kind of know where they stand on certain things because again, it's two people coming together and everybody has their own viewpoints based on how they've either grown up or what they've seen while they were growing up. So you definitely want to have those conversations so you go in knowing and not get blindsided as time goes along. So yes, this is some good topic, good topic, good topic.
Okay. So, without further ado, let's get into it. 7 things you should know before you marry someone. And say, once again, this is not
Mhm.
everything. Like I said, just to put this out, we are not gurus. We're not relationship experts. We're just giving some things that, like I said, once again, we've experienced and we've seen and talked to other couples that have experienced also. So we're hoping to give people that if you're thinking about marriage, to give you a head start on tackling some things, and even if you are married, some things to consider that you didn't consider before to turn your relationship toward the better if things are rocky right now. And so, first thing, you need to know. There's no particular order on this. I just put them just 1 through 7. So there's no rank of importance in any of this, just so anybody knows.
Okay.
All right, first thing, number one, how do they live or see their life? So, in other words, what makes you tick? So,
Hmm.
things to discuss. Do you two have the same beliefs? How do you want to live your life? Do you serve the same God? Do you even believe in God? You know, like I said, those are not requirements where you have to be there, but you need to know these things because you are tying yourself with this person. So, and a lot of these things we're going to
Hmm.
discuss are going to be two-way streets. So it's not just on the person you're dating or the person you're marrying. These are also things you need to see within yourself as well. And so, what are the goals and aspirations? What are their career goals? What are their life goals? Do they want to travel? Do they want to, try to in their career? Do they want to make partner or do they want to be a CEO or whatever that is? Because that stuff affects the marriage too, because you two are in it together. How do they
Hmm.
view relationships, marriage, and parenthood? So what's their outlook of marriage? Do they believe that it's sacred? Do they believe that it's just a piece of paper? Um, do they believe that no one's trustworthy? Do they have, like I said, trust issues? Parenthood. Do they even want kids? Because a lot of
Hmm.
people will put kids on people. They'll tell them straight up they don't want kids, but you're not hearing them because you want what you want. So are they even looking forward to that? Is that something they even want to do? What experiences and
Hmm.
lessons have shaped their character? So many people focus on the finance part of it that they forget about the character. Money comes and goes, but the character is what stays. This allows this person to stay with you through thick and thin. That depends on whether they're just here temporary or are they just here for their own selfish needs. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm gonna jump ahead.
Hmm.
And if they are truly happy with themselves. In other words, can they make themselves happy without trying to force you to make them happy or blame you because they're not happy? Because if you can't make them
Good.
happy, in our experience, if the Lord can't make you happy, with people we know, there's no hope for them. And so you got to think about: do you want to be in a relationship with somebody who puts the onus on everybody else to make them happy, but they never do it on themselves? So,
Hmm. Good.
E, what do you think about that?
All those are good questions to ask. I wanted to go back to that first one. Do you two have the same beliefs? And
Mm-hmm.
just encourage anyone that comes across the live or listens in to ask that, especially if you're a believer or you're strong in your faith or whatever the case may be, or you're trying to live a godly life or spiritual life or whatever the case may be. You want to ask that question. You want to kind of see where the person is. Don't be afraid to put it out there because you may be concerned that they may not want to move forward or whatever. But I feel like that is something that if it's important to you, you definitely want to ask it. You definitely want to see where they are and understanding that we're all at different places in our spiritual walk or whatever whatever you believe in. We're all at different places, but you at least want to know their thought process on it. If they even, like you said, believe in God, a higher power, whatever the case may be, but you want to know, especially if it's important to you. Because I've seen oftentimes, or at least heard, there's certain things that may be important to us and we won't mention it for whatever reason. Of fearful, what I'm saying? You're fearful of what they may think, or they may not want to continue, or they may have different views and you don't know how to navigate it, so you just don't say anything, which is not the best idea or the best solution, because now if you don't say anything and then you continue to move forward, or y'all even decide to get married or whatever, now it's gonna be up in your face now, and you really gotta deal with it instead of addressing it beforehand and saying, okay, well, what do you believe? How does this coincide with the things that I believe, or cultural different, what I'm saying? Cultural, like, all those are things that if it's important to you, I just want to encourage everybody. If something is of value to you and you are going into a relationship with someone else, please speak on those things. Please bring it up to them. Please mention it. You shouldn't go into something feeling like, oh, I can't say or I can't express because you're worried about what the outcome may be. And hey, who's to say If they do have an issue with it or whatever, then maybe that wasn't the person for you. But please, y'all, if it's something that is important to you and you're starting to date or you're considering going to the next step, please mention those things. Don't be quiet. Don't be like, well, I'm just going to wait and see. No, you need to go ahead and have those conversations and talk. And I believe that's with any of these things that topics that he mentioned as it relates to how do they live, especially when it comes to your goals and aspirations. Talk about it. Just discuss it. There's nothing wrong. Hey, where do you see yourself at? Or do you have anything going on? And understand everybody's not at the same place. So they may be slow starting out, but they do have some things they want to go for. They have some goals, but it's just been maybe rough trying to get there or whatever. Okay, you can work with that. And then maybe somebody actually hasn't thought about it. Like they're good where they are. That's something you need to know. You gotta talk about these things. They're not always comfortable, but they're necessary. So I think they're all good questions to ask, especially the child question. Please, y'all, please, please, please. If you're talking about it and they don't seem like that's something they want to do, or they're saying no, I'm not interested in having children. I don't want any more children. Y'all listen, 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 listen. Because what you don't want to happen is you all excited about having a kid, and mind you, they've already said they don't want this. So now it's going to be even more of a struggle and resentment if it comes to pass, and then your expectations are all up here, but they've already told you they're not even with it. So don't put yourself in that situation. Have those conversations, talk about it, and listen to what the person says. Hear them. If they say no, that's not something I consider, I don't want to do, hear them. Listen and hear them, and you'll be better off in the long run because you don't want to force anything. You don't want to force. If it's forced, then it's no need. Y'all don't. It's don't. Just leave it be because it's gonna be a struggle the whole time. Then you're gonna be miserable because you're expecting this and it's not gonna be there because the person said they weren't with that in the first place. So all of those topics are good. I just encourage each and every one of us, those that come across this, please ask those questions. If something is important to you, please address it, y'all. Don't move forward without addressing those things. And that's even if you're dating. It's one thing to be dating and maybe you didn't ask something, but then when you decide, oh, we should take it a little step further and get married, you better go back and clear up all the stuff you didn't ask, get that stuff addressed and asked before you um, say I do. So you can at least be aware. Some stuff you may, miss, but the important things, yeah, you need to know where people stand with their beliefs and what they want, what the expectation is. Have those discussions so you can be prepared for what's to come. What you got, Q?
Yep. So you're jumping ahead. So we're gonna get into
All
that
right.
stuff too. Oh, Sister Pam, how you doing? Sister Pam said
Good
hello.
evening. Hi. Thank you for
Oh,
joining us.
all right. So let's go to number two. How do they treat other people? Do they see the
That's
value
good.
in others? So how do they talk to
That's
people?
good.
That's a big thing because usually how they talk to people is how they're gonna end up talking to you. So
Mm.
do they respect people who can't do anything for them? Because we
Oh,
have
wow.
this thing about we're trying to separate ourselves from everybody about you not on my level or we think we're better than somebody and really we're not better than anyone. Everyone's the same. You may have different opportunities. You may have been blessed with different gifts and abilities, but we're all the same. And so you
Mm-hmm.
can't. How do you view people if just because what we talked about a couple shows ago. I said it's not just about people. We teach people how to be blessed, but we don't teach them how to walk in the blessing. About the ethics that come
Mm.
along with it. Just because the Lord blessed you to be in a position where you're making a lot of money or you have a lot of prestige or a lot of fame doesn't mean you get to talk down on other people. We don't know how to handle that. Just because you've been blessed well don't mean you get to look down on other people. And so, well, you shouldn't, but a lot of people do. Um, do they respect and appreciate people who look out for them? Because a lot of
Mm.
people have family members that you do a lot for them, and it seems like the people who look out for them the most are the ones they turn their back on the most. That they're the
Mm.
ones that they do the worst. And so, if they treat their people like that, how would they treat you? If you're always looking out for them, are they appreciative, or do they are they grateful for the things that you do for them, because you don't have to do it, but they appreciate the things that you
Mm-mm.
do? And do they
That is,
respect boundaries? Because a
hmm.
lot of people have no respect for boundaries at all. They just do what they want to do, and then if you try to hold them accountable, they get mad at you. You know, people, like I said, they think they
Mm-hmm.
can talk to you or treat you any kind of way, and if you have any kind of self respect, you're not going to do that, and you're not going to put up with it. But that doesn't stop. That doesn't mean people are always going to stop doing it, or that everybody gets it. So, E, what do you think about that?
No, all that's good. Those examples you gave definitely break it down and give a better understanding. But you definitely want to pay attention to how they talk to one another, to each other, how they talk to other people, and don't just what's the word I want to say? Don't just let things slide if it comes across in a negative, a negative way that they're speaking to you or whatever. One or two times they may get a little aggressive in their tone or something. You're just like, oh, it's just that. Pay attention to those things, like what caused them to either come across that way or what was going on in those moments, because it's more often than not that's something they do. You might not have noticed it before, but just pay attention to those moments when it seems like maybe they said something out the way and you never really paid attention before, but now you see it. Just pay attention, y'all. Notice those different things, but it's definitely a good point. You want to observe how do they treat people, and are they doing it to get something from the person, or is this really how they are? So yeah, pay attention to that as well.
All right. Now we'll go to number three. What is their family dynamic? In other words, who raised y'all? And that's a question you ask somebody that, who raised y'all. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to know the relationship between their mother, father, and siblings. You need to know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have a great relationship? Do they get along? Were the parents even there? And if they were, how were they able to function in the home? Was it a home with love and caring and consideration, or was it just a chaotic environment? Because that plays a part in, because you kind of repeat, and most times you repeat what you see. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody does. You can have two kids in a situation. One will look at this and say, I will never have my family. When I get a family, I will never do the things that happen here. And another person is just going to follow suit because that's all they know. So you need to know what that dynamic is. Also, this
Clem,
one,
before you
yeah, go ahead.
Q, before you move on, what is the family dynamic? That whole that question is a major question, because I don't know if people understand your environment,
Mm-hmm.
how you grew up shapes you. People tend to look at the person like, where did that come from? Da, da, da. Where your environment, how you grow up, what you've seen is what shapes you. So when people start noticing things and seeing something, you got to look back to like, okay, is this something maybe your mom, dad, somebody did that you've seen? Keep that in mind too, y'all, as y'all start, dating people, having these conversations. Family dynamic, family environment, all of that shapes a person, that makes them who they are. So just wanted to put that out there. Y'all keep that in mind. We can go ahead to the next one.
Okay, yep. And so this one, I saw this one yesterday. It, depends. Are any of their relatives in relationships? So if they don't have the example in the home, do they have any aunts or uncles or anything, or cousins that have that kind of healthy marriage? I ain't saying successful or nothing, but they have a marriage where it's functioning. Both people can do what they need to do and get along and whatever.
Healthy.
Do they have that
Healthy.
example? That plays a part in it too, because there was there was one video I saw yesterday where this guy said the guy broke up with the girl because when he came to, she invited him over to one of their family functions or family kickbacks or whatever, and he noticed
Mm-hmm.
that he was like the only guy there, not from like uncles or something like that, but from like all the other women. They didn't have any boyfriends or husbands or nothing, so he had broke up with her because of that. Because he figured that if you don't have anybody who's in that relationship or has that going on, what advice are you going to be giving her when she wants to do certain things for him,
Mm.
or if he does, or if she does things for him? Are you going to be trying to encourage her, or are you going to be trying to talk her out of it? Cause I seen there was, I seen lots and lots of content on this stuff. Um, there was one instance where same situation, different people, same situation where the girl was fixing her boyfriend a plate. And the aunt jumped in like, his hands ain't broke. He can fix his own stuff and do that. And then everybody else, the mama and the grandma, all that stuff jumped in too, and they were all telling him, no, you won't be doing that for him. But none of them in the same situation. They didn't have any men there either. So, like I said, you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who's not in a relationship but want to tell you what to do in yours. So, I mean, not doing anything bad,
I
but
think,
you got to be. It's depends, but you don't want to be wary of that because that is something that can happen in a lot of relationships where people who don't have what you have want to give you advice on it, and you end up taking bad advice if it's bad, and then you end up
but
in
I
the same situation as them.
true, but I think where we talked about boundaries earlier, especially if you're starting out dating and the individual, whether it's the man or the male or the female, you know your family dynamic. You already know if everybody's single on on that side or whatever. So that is definitely where you've got to set boundaries. No disrespect, but this is my relationship. So if I decide that I want to go fix whatever, the plate, you know what I'm saying? Like those, that is really where boundaries come into play. Because like you said, you can't tell me, you think you can tell me because maybe you're older or whatever, but due to your lack of successful relationships, I no disrespect, but I really don't want to take advice from you. And me, sometimes you have to stand up for yourself when it comes to family. You have to set that boundary. No disrespect, but and if you have some family members will respect that and not dabble, but others will. So I think you just have to know your family and be okay with standing up. And I think that's also a conversation to have with the person you're talking to because it was unfortunate that he was like, "Nah, I'm good," because I see this right here. I don't want to be a part of it. And I mean, that's his choice for that example that you gave. But again, that's a conversation that you and the person need to have to say, "Hey, my family, we going over here. None of them are in relationships. They may have had, a relationship at some point, but it didn't work out. But they always want to be in my business. Whatever that conversation looks like. So they know and not to be like, I'm done. I don't want to do this because da da da. No, we talked about. It. I already told you my family. They ain't got it all together, but they always want to try to tell me something because they overprotective or whatever that looks like. But I think that's definitely where boundaries have to be set, or at least the conversation with your family members or whatever. Not trying to be disrespectful, but you trying to navigate your relationship. I didn't have the best examples. I didn't get to see, but I want to do it different. I want to try to do this better. I met a nice young lady or a nice young man, and I want to try. So I think, yeah, you got to be able to have those conversations and not feel either afraid or like you can't because you know you're going to end up going around your family. So you definitely have to have, yes, Sister Pam, you have to speak up. You definitely have to say something, even when it comes to your family. So the boundaries you got to set them and speak. Don't just let them say anything and everything they want. But it's good for you and your person to have that conversation too, though. So they not walking in blind. Y'all already talked about it, so y'all know what's coming. If somebody got something to say, y'all both can have each other back in that type of situation. Speak up,
Yeah,
say something.
but yeah, like I said, it sometimes it's coming. It is thinking it coming from a place of love, but a lot of people will do that because they've done it before, and maybe for somebody who didn't
Mm-hmm,
appreciate it, and so they're
mm-hmm,
like you said, they're trying to protect you, but you can't try to protect somebody from something you went through because they're not dating the same person.
and
So
they're not
just
you,
yeah, so because who you had didn't appreciate it doesn't mean it's this way for them.
right?
And so you get and people have a hard time separating that. So I know we're trying to look out, but you know if it's no issue, if she don't have an issue doing it, let her do it. So
Yeah.
um, moving on. Are they divorced? Something need to know that plays a part in knowing about their past history too, because you want to know, have they learned anything? Because a lot of times people who do get divorced do get married again, but do you? Sometimes you get married, you don't know what you know, but now you say some things you wish you would have did better. So did they learn from it, or are they gonna keep repeating the same mistakes? Um, do they have any kids? Kids are a part of a marriage, and how do you feel about
Mhm.
their kids, and how do they feel about yours? Because there are some people who they want you to accept their kids, but they don't want to accept yours. So,
Mhm.
like, I want all your resources going to my kids, but even for your kids come, no, I don't care about what happens to your kids as long as you're taking care of mine. You need to know that. Don't get involved with somebody who will will treat your kids like trash, but wants you to do everything for theirs.
Mhm.
Or there's even some instances where they may not have a kid and you do. They'll still try to marry you, and they got plans on sending your kid off somewhere. Like you just gonna let this person just ship your kid off.
Mhm.
Now some people do
Mhm.
that because they more interested in the person than their kid, but you know there are people that do
Mhm.
that. And if they do have kids, what is the relationship like between the kid's mother and the father? Is it a good relationship? Do they come and see them? Do they take care of them? Or is it a situation where they don't want to let them see them because they mad that they're not together no more? So the kids are the only thing they can use against them. One thing you need to know: when's the last time they slept together? Because just because y'all not together don't mean y'all don't come over in these visits and y'all still don't do what y'all supposed to do. So you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody where, yeah, the kid's father or the kid's mother still come around. You can't help that. That's the relationship. But is he doing more? Are they doing more than just coming over to see their kid, or are they just using that to come over to see you? So it's just like things you need to know before get involved. So what do you think?
No, you're right. You definitely got to ask. And it goes back again to asking those questions. And these are vital questions, especially when you're dealing with kids, kids you already had. If they have kids, what's that dynamic? What are the ages of the kids? Because some people, you may have teenagers, or some maybe have infants, or what, like whatever. Like you need to know what that looks like because somebody might not want to deal with, you know, a younger kid versus teenager, whatever it is, and then you definitely want to know how the relationship is with that other parent because you're gonna have to incorporate that into y'all's relationship, to the new relationship moving forward, and you have to be able to communicate with that individual. So if there's any drama or there's any whatever, you got to ask the questions. Like you have to ask questions. Hopefully, you've asked those during the dating process prior to you getting ready to take that next step, so everybody understands what this is and what we're doing and how we're moving forward, and we're co-parenting or whatever that looks like. But yeah, you gotta have those conversations. They're necessary.
Yeah, one thing probably should add it is how do the kids feel about you? So
Yeah.
because that's a lot of strain on a relationship where the kids don't like you, and so they act up and they put more strain on a relationship too. Because like I said, you're not trying to replace a mom or a dad. You're here. You're attracted to their
But
mom
I
or
think
dad, and
that,
you're trying to make it work. But some people, it takes a while for them to come around to say he's not a
yeah, I'm not
replacement or
saying
she's
that.
not a replacement. But
Right.
via the time, if the relationship grows, I can love you and look out for you just as well as they do. I will never be them, but doesn't mean you can't have another person that looks out for you and wants to see you do well. But
Right.
like I
But
said,
it's
it's
also
just
how you come into the relationship.
yeah,
How do you come in treating them? Like, what are your actions? What are you saying? What are you doing? So a lot of that you have to take into account when it comes to dealing with children and new relationships. Like you have to be mindful of that. Like you can't come into this new thing trying to run something and control. Like you, that's not the approach that you can take because it's a turnoff. And so you definitely have to communicate. And granted, yes, some kids can be a little extra because they don't want to see their parent with a new person or whatever the case may be. But I think you have to tread lightly on how you navigate that. So you come in, introducing yourself, being nice, whatever. Of course, discussing with that particular parent how they parent, how to, how you introducing me, what's that look like. And you got to take it slow, and you got to you not got to you need to meet the child where they are. So if they still having difficulty adjusting to a new person coming on the scene, and they still want mom or dad or whatever, you got to kind of work it. It ain't gonna happen overnight. Like they not gonna be buddy buddy with you all of a sudden, but they will try because their mom or their dad's interested in this new person. But I think it is you have to kind of work your way to build a relationship, build rapport with a child. But you can't come in trying to you gonna do da 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 what I say and like you can't, that's not the approach to take. So it's definitely a conversation between you and the parent. But yeah, you can't come in there trying to regulate stuff. You gotta give them time to they're adjusting to you and you gotta adjust to them.
Yeah, but I think let's move on. But what I think the important thing is if if you're the parent, you kind of set the tone of that too. Because if you're disrespectful towards them, those
Yeah.
kids are gonna probably gonna follow suit more likely. In some situations they don't, they do. But
Yeah.
when you're in that situation, we're not trying to regulate, but the respect to say, hey, this is the man or this is the woman of the house. They're not trying to regulate, but if they're here, it's about respect because you're gonna have to follow somebody. So if he asks you to do,
Well
if
no,
they
what
hear,
I'm
you know,
right. Well when I say regulate, I'm talking about you're just starting out. You met the child or whatever, you're dating the father, mother, whatever, but off the at the beginning of it, now you want to try to do stuff and dictate and whatever. You can't jump into it like that. It has to be, like you said, a conversation between the mom or the dad or whatever, and saying, "Hey, this is such and such. I'm allowing, you know what I'm saying? I'm allowing them to whatever. Is it discipline, whatever? So you need to respect what they say. Like that's a conversation. The person can't just come in and think you're just gonna be able to tell them what to do right off the bat. Like you said, it has to be a conversation between that parent to let the kid know, hey, this is such and such. You need to listen to what they're telling you. Because some people come in there thinking, oh, I'm the new, so I can just tell them whatever, and they're gonna listen to me. And that's not how that goes. So
yeah.
yes, it is respect. I get what you're saying, but you can't off top try to be like, oh, I'm in here now, so I'm gonna get you right. I'm gonna get you together. Wait a minute.
But some of that is more. It's like if that's your kids, more people lean on that parent to be like, hey, if I got an issue, I bring it to you and let you deal with them. But if you're the type of parent to be like, oh, my kids don't do nothing wrong, so that's just gonna be an issue because they're gonna
Right.
keep doing what they do. But that's just like I said, that's
I
something
got
that's
you.
got to be talked about. Take your time with the stuff too. So takes us to number 4. How do they handle responsibility? So do you handle your business? So things you might want to ask: how good are they with money? Because you need to
Mhm.
know that everybody's not even that be good with money and may need a couple of help because of some structure, but are they really wasteful with their money? Like you rather go on vacation than pay your light bill, stuff like that. Because those are habits that you're bringing into a marriage. So you might want to know how this person handles money.
Mhm.
Do they have life skills? Cooking, cleaning. Do they know how to pay bills, etc.? Do they know how to fix things? You know, some of it's important or not, but you need to know because you can't go into a relationship with somebody complaining, but they don't help you cook when you knew from the get go they don't know how to cook anyway.
Mm.
Or if they were, or like
Yeah.
if he was in a situation where he grew up and mom did everything, she did all the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, and he don't know how to do any of that. You can't expect him to be like, oh, you need to learn how to do this now. He never had to. So what's the incentive for him to do it, or her to do it? So some people too that focus more on careers than doing the basic stuff, and then there's some people that get upset if you ask them if they know how to cook and clean. I'm just asking, do you know how to
Yeah.
take care of yourself? Do you have basic life skills? And they get upset over that. So that's new generation. We, back in the day, you ask a woman or something or a man, you know how to cook and clean? Yeah, that was like, you know what? Shoot, let me come through and find out. But now, things are a little different. Do they have structure and routines in place? So is their life in order or does it have some chaos to it? Do they have um, routines they do? Do they have certain times they get up, things, places they go? Do they work out? Do they have responsibilities they have to whether it's church or work or other organizations and things? So you need to know that stuff because like once again, you want to know that they're have some other thing, have something else going on other than just sitting around, or that they have other
Yeah.
people who look to them and can they can network and fellowship and things like that. Do they acknowledge mistakes and hold themselves accountable? Now, that
Hmm.
is a big thing. If you make a mistake, just say you're sorry or say you apologize. Do they try to blame others for their mistakes? Do they try to gaslight you and try to get you up so upset that you stop talking to them about it and you just forget it altogether? So those are things because those are attitudes and things you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And are they dependable? So if you need them to do
Hmm.
something, can you count on them to get it done? Or if they can't get it done, will they at least let you know in time to where you can make other arrangements and not just leave you high and dry and wait to the last minute and you wondering where they are or what happened and they don't say anything? Oh, I had that one on there twice. I should have erased that. And how good they are with money. But yeah, what do you think?
All of those are good. That dependable one is a major one. I feel is major because if you're asking them to do something or just to follow up with something, you want to know that it's going to be able to be done. You want to trust that if they said they're going to take care of something, it's going to get taken care of. So you definitely want to make sure that the individual can be depended upon because you never know when you truly may need. I mean, those are some simple things like, oh, did you pay such and such, or if you needed them to take care of something or pick you up, whatever. Those are small. But what if it was something big, that major life, you know what I'm saying? Major life thing took place and you needed them to be in place, but for whatever reason they couldn't be without a legit reason. Those are some things you may, be a little concerning about. But no, all of those are good. How do they handle their responsibility? That's key because you never know what could arise, even in the beginning stages, whether that's dating or whatever, prior to you going into marriage. Like, have you seen a pattern that you haven't been able to depend on them or they weren't responsible with different things? Like, that's why I said earlier, y'all, pay attention to stuff. Don't just let it brush under the rug. Don't just be like, oh, well, they did that, but it's okay, because they made it up on another end. But you got to pay attention, especially if you're thinking about taking that relationship to the next level. Have they been consistent with not showing up or not doing this or not paying or whatever or not having a routine or whatever? Like, what? Pay attention because if they've been doing it, they're not all of a sudden gonna change just because you got married. Think about it. Like, they've got in the habit of doing these things or not able to manage money or being not frugal, being spending, just extravagant spending or unnecessary spending. That's not gonna change just because you said I do. Especially that's a habit. That means they've been doing that probably for a while and you just kind of overlooked it because of whatever reason. But again, that goes back to just paying attention, paying attention and asking questions. Because again, do they have life skills? Some people don't do some of those things, but it's also you can figure out those things that you can work with. Are you okay with that? That maybe they don't cook, but you're a good cook, but y'all are cool if they don't because you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, figure out what the skill set is, and then y'all figure out how it works for you. Granted, some people don't clean. I'll be honest with you. I clean, but my husband is better at it. I do it, but my husband's better at it. But we do it together. Anyway, we do it together. And then with the cooking, I do it. I cook most of the time. He can, but I do it more often. You see what I'm saying? But we work together. If I'm not able to, he can step in, and vice versa with the cleaning. If he's not able to, I can step in. But again, those are conversations, and those are things that you work through, and that can be learned. I want everybody to understand some of this stuff can be learned if you're willing to have patience with your significant other to show them. You got to remember, some people didn't learn some of this stuff. And it is what it is. Some people didn't learn because for whatever reason, maybe they weren't shown or whatever. They didn't learn it. But if you're willing to show them or teach them and they're open and receptive, it's all good. But you can't go around here trying to make nobody feel bad because they may not do some of this stuff. If they ain't taught, they ain't know.
Yeah, you don't know
So
what you
be
don't know.
willing to, yeah, exactly. But be willing to share the information. Be willing to show them if hopefully they'll be open to, oh yeah, let me show you X, Y, and Z, or y'all do some things together so you get a better understanding. Because some people, what I've learned, are more like, what is it? Is it analytical? Like they like structure and they want to see, everything like this, and other people aren't. Like they can just roll it by the seat of their pants and just do it. Okay, well, how can we make this work for both of us? Maybe on the bill side, I'll do the chart, or you do, you know what I'm saying? Fill it in so I can see. I need concrete. Whereas you just can flow with it and stuff. So figure out what works for you all based on your strengths, but don't down the other person because they may not be as savvy or as knowledgeable in some of these areas. Be willing to assist and help and show and provide a little insight and guidance, especially if you're better at it. That's another thing too. You have to be willing to show and share and give insight on different things. But that goes back again to how you handle your business. But everybody's not gonna handle it the same. But be okay with sharing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because it's like I said, it's all part of growing, and it's not so much that they don't know. Are they willing to learn to help you? Because like I said,
Mm,
you can always learn how to do something. You ain't got to be a master at it, but you can always learn how to do something to kind of
that's true.
help. But we're gonna get into that a little bit later too. But I will say this before we move on about responsibility. This would be a good thing to find out how responsible somebody is before you lay down and conceive a child with them, because there's so many people that look for the pleasure, and then when it happens, you want to be like, oh, you need to handle your responsibility. But if this person weren't responsible to begin with, you might well be talking to yourself in a lot of cases. So this stuff will help you avoid a whole lot of headache and heartache if you would slow down,
Yeah.
take your time before you make these rash decisions, and look for those qualities in people other than the situation happens now. Oh no, you need to do this and you should be this and you should be that. When if you took the time, you'd find out that they weren't that to begin with. So, all right, going to
Something to keep
five.
in mind.
Yep, going to five. How do they handle anger, disappointment, and stress? So, what do they do when things are not going well? So, are they the type of person that likes to use alcohol or drugs to cope? So, you need to know that because, are they in control of it or do they have a habit? Are they verbally abusive? So, do they like to scream and cuss? Are they physically abusive? Do they like to hit walls? Do they like to hit people? Will they hit you? Things you need to
Mm,
know. Do they, when they in this situation, do they need some alone time to cool down? So, if they're the type of person that when they get riled up, they need to be alone and just take a time out. It's not wise of you to keep egging this person on and keep badgering them if they told you, "Hey, let me alone, let me get a minute," because all you're gonna do is keep instigating and make a situation worse. And you need
mm-hmm.
to know, do they hold grudges? So there are people who will say, "Oh no, we're fine and we're cool," and y'all not cool because they're really thinking about how they can do something or how they can get you back or try to make you feel multiple times the pain or anger that they're feeling in that moment. So you need to know if you're dealing with those kind of people, before you do this, because like I said, this is what you're marrying in. So you want to know these things up front so you make that firm decision about, do you want to go forward with this or not. So what are you thinking?
No, all those are definitely good. How do you handle anger, disappointment, and stress? Yeah, you need to ask all those questions. So that's all mood and temperament. You need to know how people handle those situations because they're gonna come. They're gonna arise in some shape or form, and you want to know how the person handles it because y'all both can't be out here angry and upset. Somebody's got to be able to calm down the situation. Somebody's got to be able to bring the tension down. So you want to definitely know what that looks like. So yeah, all of those are good questions to ask.
And like I said, these aren't things that no one can't come from or can't change from, but all change starts with a person realizing that they need to change. And
Gotta
so
acknowledge it. Yeah.
there's no timetable on that. So who knows how long it may take? They may think they never need to change at all. So like I say, you have to take all these things into account. So takes us to number 6. We're almost done. Can you communicate with them? I should have changed that. Show me your dreams.
Mm.
I had this as something else, and I didn't change it. So, what type of communicator are they? Are they assertive, manipulative, passive aggressive, empathetic, etc.? So you need to know their style because you need to know if someone's communicating with you in good faith or they're just trying to get over on you. Because a lot of people stay longer than what they're supposed to because um, we say the right things, those sweet nothings, and say the right words, and they're just gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again. Or when the things happen, they once again they push blame on everybody else. It's your fault I did this. It's your fault this happened. It's your fault I went here. It's your fault I went there. And like I said, that becomes tiring to deal with. And so when we talked earlier, how do they feel about compromise? Talked about the cooking. Do you want to learn how to do this, or how do we work with our bills? Are you willing to learn a skill? Are we willing to get together to where if I'm better at this and you're better at that, can we come together where our strengths are our weaknesses, or our weaknesses are my weakness is your strength? Can we work together to where we can do those things without feeling some type of way? Can we? And then the last thing, are they willing to build plan with you? So can we set up a plan like
Mm.
you're setting up the budget? Can we set up investments? Can we set up long-term goals, a retirement plan? Can we set up a college fund for the kids? Can we set up, okay, how are we building? How are we doing this family structure? How are we tackling our everyday things at home? When we get upset, how do we handle it? Do we go away and separate and come back and talk? Do you have a weekly meeting where y'all discuss what's going on with y'all and things you see, and y'all work towards solutions other than arguing at each other? So when they're listening to you, are they listening when you're telling them what's going on with you? Do they listen to you to get a better understanding and work this out, or are they just waiting on you to stop so they can throw some stuff back at you and respond? So those are things.
Mm.
Those are things we want to. We don't think about until we get into the moment. But a bunch of screaming and arguing at each other don't solve nothing. We want
Mm.
solutions, but
Nope.
you have to air your grievances before you get to the solutions. But a lot of people don't want to hear the grievances. So how do you get solutions if you
Mm.
don't know what's wrong and you don't allow people to get it off their chest to where, oh, I see it this way, but no, it's really this way. Oh, okay, I didn't see that. Okay, I understand that. Now we can work toward this and where you get a better understanding of when they breathe under their breath or when they do something, you don't take it out of context to where you don't get in your feelings because they make a gesture or something to thinking it's more than what it is. So that's like learning body languages and all that other stuff to where you take the time to where we understand the verbal and like the nonverbal. So once we get to a point where what's understood don't have to be said, we don't have to fight all these little fires about our attitudes and certain things that are said and whatnot. So we know where people stand. We know what they expect, what they will allow, what they won't allow, and we can work with that. And you stay within those boundaries, like we talked about earlier. So what do you think, E?
No, all that's good. I think with that last point you were making as far as how you, I think it's also how you come across. Like I think you mentioned earlier, not the blame, don't do the blaming thing. In order for people to hear you out, I think you have to come from a place of trying to get clarity and getting a better understanding, but not trying to be like, oh, you did this or you did that, because they're going to turn you off and they're not going to want to hear you. Then that's going to start even more of an issue or escalation. But I think it's how you address those issues or how you bring up the stuff. And I've always said it's not what you say, but it's how you say it when it comes to communication and having that dialogue or trying to get your point across or trying to express yourself. You have to be, I know, and when we're upset or frustrated, we don't think about our tone and what's coming out our mouth because most of the time we're emotional. But if you can step back and take a deep breath before you go in or whatever, that'll kind of help you get a clearer head as far as what you're trying to say so you can get your point across. But I know that's not always easy to do, but sometimes it is necessary to take a moment, step back, because if you're talking out of emotion, especially when it comes to anything communicating, if you're talking out of emotion, you're just going to say what you feel, and that's not always the best, especially if you're angry. So just be mindful of that, to try to step back and take a moment to breathe and regroup and then proceed to explain yourself, and don't do the blame game. But also, when you were talking about compromise, how do they feel about that? Can we agree to disagree and respect each other's thought process? So we may not fully agree, but we can come up, like you said, with a solution that both of us can live with. But you have to be open to that and not feel like your way is the right way all the time and you're right no matter what. So you can't have that stance. So anybody that comes across the video later, keep that in mind. You can't always have that I'm right stance all the time. That's not that's not gonna work. You can't always be like, well, my way is the right way, and da, da, da. That's not fair because you're not giving the other person a chance to have a thought or contribute to whatever the conversation is because you feel like you're right all the time. And that goes back again, it's two of us coming together. So of course I have an opinion and you have one too. So how do we come to a resolution if we don't agree or if whatever the case may be? How do we come to uh, how do we come to something that's going to work for everybody involved? So definitely communication is big, but again, it's how you say the things that you're trying to say, and try your best not to point the finger and blame. Just keep it general for the for the most part, unless it's a concrete situation or you have an example where you're like, I remember this happened and da da da. Okay, but most of the time, just keep it as a general. I'm trying to get an understanding. I just want to express something because people are more likely to be open to what you have to say if you don't start off trying to blame them for something. They're more likely to hear you out if you're not trying to be like, oh, well, you did this and you did this, and I remember that. You're not going to get anywhere with that. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Also, we talked about the other week that we didn't put on here about your communication about like when you get angry and the things you say. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
you get it out your system before you actually say it to the person. So that way
Yeah.
you don't have to apologize or you don't have to try to say something you can't take back. Because like they said,
Mm-hmm.
there are three types of people that tell the truth. There's kids, drunks, and angry people. And so you definitely don't want to fire
Mm-hmm.
off something that your true feelings and it changes the course of your relationship. So where y'all don't get back to y'all can't get back to where y'all were. So and that brings us last not least number 7. Are you being truthful with yourself? Do you really want to be with this person? So you have to ask yourself, how much do you like, respect, and love them? Because in marriage, there will be times where you may not love the person. Now, you need to at least like them. You might not like them very much, depending on what's going on, but there has to be some like, and there has to be a high level of respect. Because there's no way you can't say that you don't like someone, you have little like for them, you have little to no respect for them, but going to come out your mouth and say that you love them. That don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And actions show that. So sometimes you may have to uh, take a good look and realize when someone is not really interested in you the way you're interested in them. And so sometimes that's hard to figure out, but there's some signs you can and some things you can look at to where you can tell if a person is really into you or not. And so I know one thing is if they're willing to spend money on you, well, and not always, but in some cases, but if you're the one, what they ask us about, what we say about women is that if a woman's willing to spend money on you, she likes you, because otherwise she don't. She will allow you to spend money on her, but if she spends her own money on you, then obviously she likes you. That's just one thing. I mean, there's lots of other things from men and women too, but either that or she makes sure that you are able to contact her. We ain't talking about giving an Instagram or nothing. I'm talking about you got phone number, you got Instagram, Facebook, X, Signal, WhatsApp, whatever. If she makes sure that you are able to get in contact with her, she likes you. Just simple things. And, they don't put you through the hoops that they put everybody else through. Because a lot of dudes don't understand that is that a lot of things they may expect from other men as far as like taking them out and doing this and that. For the people she really like, she don't do that. You want to she say you got to take her to some expensive restaurant. She'll go to Wing House or Wing Stop with the dude she really likes. She don't care as long as they together. But it takes time to figure out that. And so, you know, if anybody said different about that, you can feel free to drop in the comments what you think. Um, Next thing, are you looking for a good time or a long time? Because as long as things are going good, everybody's willing to be with you. But when things get difficult, everybody's not there for that. They leave. And so what some people do is they'll run a test to see if you are really there for them or for there for what they provide for you or what they can do and what they have. So what a lot of dudes would do is they would, well, it might so much now because it might actually happen. They would take about a week or two off from work, and then they would tell their girlfriend or fiance or whatever, "I lost my job," and just to sit back and watch what she does. And you'll be surprised how many women up and left as soon as they found out he didn't have a job no more. They were gone, or they stayed for maybe they might have stayed for the week or so, but then if it felt like they were having to foot everything, they just up and left. So, you know, you do yourself a favor, you figure out like, okay, so if something happens, if you're willing to leave me if I lost my job, what would happen if something happened to my health? There are some people that left because, you know, they got cancer and their wife, even wives that had just left because they're not everybody's not down for that. Like I say, the one thing you got to find this out because on a wedding day, anybody can lie on a wedding day. You agree to everything. Oh yeah, sickness and health, rich or poor. Oh yeah, till death do us part. I'm in it. But then when those things actually
Until
happen, then you want the first thing smoking out of here. So like I say, if you can figure those things out, find those things out before you walk down that aisle and you put all this money and tie your finances and all that stuff together. Number three. Now, as I said, this is not just for the person, this is for both people too. Are you still chasing ghosts? So what we mean by that, that you're still chasing or hoping on a situation that's not going to happen or hoping on a person that's not going to come through. So are you with somebody, but you still hoping that that ex you really want to be with will come to their senses and come and get you and come and ask for you back? I seen a post the other day where though it was on the day of the wedding that morning where the lady texted her ex and said it's now or never. Why are you texting your ex it's now or never and you supposed to get married in a couple hours? At that point, it's over. But see, some people, if you remember a different world, they think that people are supposed to be like Dwayne Wayne and come and get Whitley at the altar right before she marries this dude. But for the most part, if the person wanted to marry you, you wouldn't be engaged to this other person to begin with. If they were able to do it or really wanted to do it. And you know, vice versa. Even there's some other women that have come where they come to the wedding, the day of the wedding, show up to the wedding asking for the man back, proclaiming how much they love him and stuff. But you know, at that point, you might well let that go because I definitely don't want you to get jumped in there because you know everybody's family members ain't
yeah,
civil. And so,
yeah.
next one, do you realize what you have? There are so many people that think they can do better than what they got, but you have to really look at what this person has to offer because it ain't out here. There, you know, like I said, I watch a lot of videos. There was this lady who had this guy. He was tall, athletic. He was financially stable, educated. He was in the church, and he loved her. And she still broke up with him, and they were engaged, and she still broke up with him because let's say his eggplant wasn't as big as she wanted it to be. And so her family looked at her like she had three heads, like she was crazy because that kind of dude don't grow on trees. You know,
Mm-mm.
the same thing if you find a
Nope.
woman out here who she's nice, she looks out for you, she's caring, She prays for you all the time. She only wants your best interest because it knows it's gonna benefit both of y'all, and you still out here looking for something different. That's it. Don't get no better than that. There are people that will kill for what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Man or woman, there are people who will kill for somebody like that, and you just toss it away. Like you just think that, oh, I'll just find somebody else that does all that. You may find somebody else that has all that, but the problem is, do they want you? It's hard to find people who are genuinely into you, and a lot of times we're not mature enough because we want what we want, which leads us to almost leads us to this next. Well, leads us into the next one. Are the streets still calling you?
Hmm.
Just because you can get different people, and there are some people, just to be honest with yourself, they're not ready for marriage because they like being in the streets. They like jumping from person to person. If that's something you enjoy, then I'm gonna say right now, you're not ready. Marriage ain't for you because you're not ready to lay down with one person supposedly for the rest of your life. If you so used to having a different man or a different woman every other night or every other week because it's exciting to you, or you used to being out flying and going off and not having to give an account for where you're going or let nobody know what you're doing, then marriage ain't for you. So understand, are those things out of your system? Because it doesn't say you don't want to go out and have fun and stuff, but if you still want to do that destructive behavior, don't bring that into a marriage because that marriage is not going to last long. That's for both people. So all y'all gonna do is just create more chaos and make a bad situation even worse. So E, what do you think?
Yeah, no, all those you definitely all the examples you gave were right on it. I think though when you were talking about are you still chasing ghosts and is it for a long term or a good time or a long term? I think that's the individual has like you said, you gotta check yourself. Why are you still holding on or wishing or whatever? Especially if you have a good person in front of you, what is it that's keeping you holding on? And that's a self check situation. Like if you haven't let that go, you really don't need to try to enter into nothing else because it's gonna be a hindrance because you're really not gonna be fully present in the current relationship, let alone you talking about marriage. But you're not gonna be fully present because in your mind you're still thinking about oh what could be or what could have been or whatever the case may be. So you got to do a self check. That's your dating. Like that's dating pretty much. Like if you haven't really let go of the thought process of oh I still want to see if this could be or whatever the case may be, don't try to go into something new with somebody else because that's not fair because you're not going to be totally present. You're going to try, but then something's going to happen. Something is going to no. So don't even do it to yourself. Try to get, and I know it's easier said than done, but try to heal and get over the previous before you move on to the next so that you can do a self check and be like, okay, yeah, I'm good with this. I do know what I want now. I do appreciate what I have. I realize what I have is better than what I had before, or whatever the case may be. I think that's the only way you really can do a real self check is to be able to give yourself time to heal and release all that stuff from the past. So don't jump into, and people do it all the time. They don't give themselves time to heal before they move on to the next relationship. And they take a lot of that stuff into the next one. The comparisons, the all kind of stuff. And then like you were saying, Q, you get a good person, good male or female, but you don't know how to appreciate it because you're still in your mind thinking about what could have been and you got it. It might not have been exactly what you thought it was going to be, but everything you need is right in front of you. But unfortunately, you want what you want, like you said. So then you end up missing out on what's in front of you, what you actually need, that stability, somebody that actually cares and loves you, or whatever the case may be. So be willing to let go of the past stuff and what you think could have been, especially if they've moved on, but you haven't, or you're trying to, but you're still in your mind. If you're still in your mind like that, you haven't moved on, Just FYI. But give yourself a chance to heal so you can do number 7. Be real with yourself. If you've healed and you've kind of acknowledged where you're at with everything, your emotions and all that stuff, and this new person, not trying to compare them and just taking them for what they are, then okay, you can say, yeah, I've done a real self check. I'm good. I'm healed. Let's move forward. But if you haven't done that, don't don't try to move forward because now you're using them as a placeholder, and that's not fair. That's not fair to them because you're not gonna be genuinely present with this new person. You're gonna try, and it may be okay for a while, but it's not gonna last too long because your emotional piece, you're not gonna be fully invested, if that makes sense. So just try your best to heal before y'all go into something new.
Yeah, because I'll send you a story I came across Facebook earlier, and reading it, the young lady, she lucky she's still here for the stuff she did, because
Mm,
another person would have took her out of here. But
mm,
well, just put it like this for everybody: don't agree to marry. She agreed to marry this guy, but she had a boyfriend. Her parents and the guy came to her parents wanted to marry her, so her parents convinced her to marry this guy. She really didn't want to do it because she loved her boyfriend. So what she did was she agreed to marry this guy. Now this guy was well off, had money and everything. He set her up an apartment, um, took care of her. He was over here, she was over in another country. So she convinced him to put her through school, so that way when she got here, since it would be less expensive doing it where she was when she got here, the only thing she had to do was look for a job. While she was doing that, she got back up with the boyfriend, had her fiance send her extra money, sent the boyfriend to school for like IT. And so not only that, she was working on her visa to come over here when they got married, and she was also trying to work on his visa to get him over here too. So they had got married. They were married for 4 years. She wouldn't was taking birth control, wouldn't give him a baby, and the times didn't sleep for him for like 6 months. But it took that amount of time for the boyfriend's visa to get approved. Then when he came over here, then she messed around, got pregnant with him. So not only did she take this dude's money, used him for money for her, and put her boyfriend through school, and got him over here, and then messed around and had a baby with him because I loved him. So and then had the nerve to put God into it, talking about I think this was God's doing. Put God in that mess. So stuff like
yeah.
that you gotta be
Thank you,
aware of with people and their motives and things. But
guys.
one more thing to add to this is that we say that we treat people the way we want to be treated, and a lot of times you're going to find out in life that everybody don't want to be treated well, which goes into this number 7. There are some people that know they can find people if they wanted to like that. There are people who are interested in them, who really love them, who would take care of them, who will be honored to be with them, to have kids with them, and they don't want any of that because they want to be out here in the streets. They want what they want. They want who they want. They want to do what they want. And they do that for a while until it comes to a certain point where they feel like, oh, well, I don't have to do everything that was exciting to me does not take care of me. So now you want what you had earlier. And it's not that you don't want the person, you just want somebody to do what they were doing. So we don't want you to be in that situation where you wait, yeah, you can have all your fun all these years, but the older you get, it's harder to get somebody to do that. It's not impossible, but your degree of difficulty just went way up here. So, like I said, I mean, it's cool to be honest with yourself so you don't waste nobody else's time, but also you need to be honest with yourself that we don't have a lot of time here. And the window is not as is your striking window is not as big as everybody else's is. And just because somebody else was able to do it, to go through life and be in the streets and then get somebody to come and marry them and take care of them later, that doesn't mean it's gonna happen for you. The odds in that are really low because there are more stories of people who don't than people that do. And so like that, Or don't compare yourself to celebrities either, because if you're not rich and famous and beautiful, you don't have that kind of time to waste. Because there ain't gonna be somebody always around waiting on you that is in a position that they're in. So it's just to keep it realistic. But um, I'm saying you have to be honest with yourself, because a lot of people aren't. And I know people feel like they're ready for something, but sit down and be honest. Is it really out of your system? Are you really tired of doing this? Do you really want to give this up? Do you really want this change, or does it still excite you to go out? Do you still feel like you're missing out on something because your friends went out and did this and that, and you hear it in a relationship at home? So you got to take those times because marriage. I mean, you can have fun in a marriage. Y'all can still go places and do things, but a lot of times y'all working, taking care of bills. You're taking care of kids. You don't have time to just up and leave like you did when you were single. So it's a trade off. So yeah, you can do that, but it's hard to do that and find somebody to take care of the stuff at home. And that's another post I seen too. But where the lady she divorced her husband because she got looking at with her friends and looking at them going out and having fun, and she wanted excitement. So even though he was making good money, was taking care of her, she didn't have to work. They still went out, but she wanted more, so she ended up divorcing them. So she divorced them. So she got the people who came through, hanging out all night and the excitement and everything, but wasn't nobody trying to help her pay these bills and take care of these kids. And her ex husband already moved on. So that's why I said, do you realize what you have? So you can keep looking at, what the saying says, comparison is a thief of joy. What we said last week. So you can keep comparing
Mm,
yourself to what other people's situations, but you better realize what you got and what you giving up to go chase something that it feels good for a moment, but is ultimately it's not able to sustain you. So
mm,
that's all I have. Um, it's a good talk, but once again, we are here for everybody to check their levels. So wherever you need to adjust, adjust. But like I said, we're only here try to help people, give some uh, thoughts, some things to think about, to say, make these decisions. Do you really want to do this? Because this is a big decision. And so, like I say, this is a life changing decision. It's one of the most important decisions you'll make in your life. And so many people play around with it. But, like I said, take your time with it. There's no rush to it. Build a relationship. Take your time to know somebody. Realize who they are. Uh oh. Continue recording.